Hey everybody, Teching here. Don't worry, I'm not a ghost, I'm just off camera at the moment. Before I go running into frame screaming Elbath at the top of my lungs, I wanted you to guess what weapon I'm going to be wielding this week. Am I going to be wielding a weapon at all? Who knows? Cast your votes now. Alright, here we go. Elbath! That's right, ladies and gentlemen. It's not all about swords and axes and spears and bows. Sometimes you gotta protect yourself. I say modern warfare is a place of science. The science of shields. Shields are the thing that keep you alive on the battlefield. Brook knows it. Brook uses a shield in this chapter. Yeah. All right, and this is the best shield. This is the Hyrulean shield. Okay. We have One Piece, chapter 1173 review today, titled, A Generation of Warriors, the generation that knows how to use shields! Okay, the cover page this week, it's another fan request. We still haven't gotten quite into a new cover story, but I feel Oda's going to be gearing up for one pretty soon. I just have this feeling next couple of chapters we're going to get the new one. I think it's going to involve some characters from Egghead, which in my opinion would be like Stussy and Sentomaru. Sentomaru and Stussy's very dejected adventure of mourning. Maybe they'll hold a funeral for Vegapunk, because they have no idea what happened to him, really. I mean, he got away with the Straw Hats, but he also got stabbed and died, so I don't think they're aware of, like, what everything's going on. So I'm going to assume it's going to be a Sentomaru and Stussy themed one, but I think that's going to start soon. This one is pretty simple. It's Chopper and Usopp. That's a good duo, and they're trying to catch some, like rhinoceros beetles or Hercules beetles out in the woods, and they have decided to do this by taking some honey and putting it on Usopp's nose, because a thing that you'll do out in the woods is you'll take some honey or sap and you'll put it on a tree, and then, bugs will be attracted to it, and you can, capture bugs and things like that. I don't know why they're using Usopp's nose. It's just a thing. Chopper's there, Usopp's there, and a beetle is about to land on him. So, yeah, that's nice. Okay, so Zoro's plan. I know we're all excited for this one, ladies and gentlemen. This one is going to be crazy, all right? Where is it going, all right? Is it a good plan? Is it a bad plan? We'll see, all right? We open up right with it. We see a stare down, like this is an old-timey, Old West, like, showdown, okay? We are at the Western Village. We have Elder Jarl with his sword and a retinue of giant warriors that are standing opposite of the Domi Reversi giants. We got Dory and Bragi, but we also have a couple of other members of the giant warrior crew. I remember there was this one dude that's a really tall giant. He has a neck that's like a giraffe, and his name is Tall Man, or Tallman, or whatever. And so he's there too, and a few other giants have been Domi Reversi'd. So they're just kind of like squaring off against each other, and Dory and Bragi and the other giant warriors are shouting, kill Elder Jarl! We came here to take your head! And Jarl's over there and he's got his sword. It is not the sword he was impaled with. We still see Harald's sword embedded in his skull. It is also important to remember that sword was originally Jarl's. Jarl wielded that sword when he was a member of the giant warrior pirates like 300 years ago, when he was the greatest warrior in the entire world, I guess. All over the Grand Line, he was, revered and feared and all that kind of stuff. And he gave that sword to Harald, and then Harald, when he was, possessed by Emu, stabbed him back in the head with it. Oh man, Elder Jarl, I didn't think I'd have to return this sword to you like this, but here you go! And so that's still inside of his head, right? So that thing's probably like a Saijo Awazumono grade blade or something like that. Just keep that in mind, okay? So Zoro arrives alongside Stanson and Hiruden, right? And so they're like, what's this plan of yours, Roronoa Zoro? And he's like, okay, it's a good plan, but I just gotta check with something with you guys really quick. Am I allowed to cut all these giants up? And Hiruden and Stanson are kind of like, they don't say no, because this is a real big emergency right now. They know that they've been possessed and turned into these demon monsters. It's kind of hard not to tell, you know what I mean? Like that they've grown twice their own size, have devil horns, are oozing like evil aura from their body. Even their weapons have become more evil. That's the great thing about the aesthetic of Domi Reversi. I don't know if you guys even noticed, but like even the shields get spikes on them, and Dory's sword turned into a pitchfork, right? Like, even the weapons are turned evil, right? You know, what's the evil version of the Hyrulean shield? I don't know. There's like an evil version of that like Dark Link uses or something. I don't know. I haven't played that many Zelda games. I played a few, but not quite as many. All right, so they're like, yeah, you can cut the giants up, but like, be careful. Like, don't go overboard. Like, Hyrule and Stanson don't want to see Dory Broggy get like slaughtered here. They don't want to see him dead. I mean, I guess if that's what they have to do, I mean, like, you got to go that extent with it. But like, let's try not to like straight up kill them, right? And remember, the Domi Reversi giants, from what we've seen so far, don't have the regeneration capabilities. They're way stronger, and it seems like they feel pain a little less, but they do not heal. Broggy got his hand blown off by Emu's magical devil shotgun that Emu might have on loan from, like, Dante or something. And when he got turned into a Domi Reversi giant, the hand didn't, like, reform. It's like there's a bunch of empty space in between Broggy's, like, hand and his wrist right now. Like, he basically doesn't have a wrist. His hand is just, like, floating in the middle of the air, okay? So they don't heal necessarily. So it's like, yeah, be careful about this. We still, like, respect these warriors. Each one of these warriors that have been possessed by Emu have earned our respect over the years. We've looked up to them, right? Like, this is why we wanted to be, you know, warriors and things like that, right? And so then you see two members of the giant warrior pirates that have been Domi Reversi'd. We don't know their names, but they've noticed Hyrule and Stanson approaching. And they're like, oh, Hyrule, Stanson, you still out there trying to unite all the tribes of the giants? You still out there trying to be king of the giants? It's like everybody went to Mocktown all of a sudden. All the people of Mocktown have been Domi Reversi because it's the same kind of idea. They are laughing at Hyruden's dream. And if we know one thing about the world of One Piece is laughing at someone's dream, those are fighting words. Those are fighting laughters right there. I mean, those will straight up kill you, right? Kid was like notorious for going around and like burning entire islands down when they laughed at his dream, all right? And we actually even get the laughter style of one of the giants. It's zoo gya 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 gya, and they're laughing. And so at that exact moment, Hyrule and Stanson, they like just, they get the vein in their foreheads. They like snap at the same time, and they're just like, go for it, Roanora. Do what you gotta do to them sons of britches. You know, cut them down if you got to, right? And so Zoro's like, all right, brothers, you got it. He's like, okay, brothers, no problem. I got it. And so Zoro's happy. He's like, oh, okay, I was gonna go a little easy on them, but now you're saying I don't have to? Okay. So Zoro jumps off of the shoulder of Hyrule, and the giants mention that's like, oh, hey, good idea, Zoro. You know, if you're not in between the giants, you're not going to get flipped on the Domi Reversi board. So all you got to do is you got to fly over them. So we learned a little bit of a weakness there, and it's obviously a lot easier for somebody like Zoro, who's human-sized, to like dance around and jump around off the shoulders and heads of other giants to stay above them, okay? So the Domi Reversi thing really seems to only happen when you are standing on the ground in between two individuals that have already been flipped, okay? And then you will be flipped if you're right in the center, okay? So as long as you avoid that, maybe even if it's like it's okay for you to be in between them, just don't be touching the ground, because it's out of the ground that it actually flips. Now, it doesn't seem like when that process starts, you can dodge it. Like, when you're, like, trapped there, it's like, no, please, I don't want to be turned evil, you know? And it's like you can't move and you're immobilized. It doesn't matter how strong you are. It doesn't matter how much hockey you have. It's like you are getting flipped no matter what. So as long as you don't touch the physical ground, I guess that is a way around it. So any character that could fly, like Luffy should be immune to this automatically, because he can just float around when he's in Gear 5th. Sanji can use Skywalk. Zoro doesn't have any abilities to allow him to fly in general. He's just like jumping good right now in this chapter. So he went to the Samurai Jack school of learning how to jump good. So he'll be fine. So he's jumping around on these giants' heads. One of the giants tries to attack Stanson and Hyrule. They split up and they're going around the entire battlefield. So there's big cluster of Domi Reversi giants right in the center. Hyruden's going this way, Stanson's going that way, and they're like, well, flank them, Stanson, let's go. So they're running off, so they just do not enter the melee. Once you start entering the melee and you're surrounded, somebody's going to get Domi reversied. Although, to be fair, a Domi reversied Hiruden and Stanson, that would be pretty sick to see. I wonder what the evil version of Stanson's hammer would take the appearance of. It looks the exact same, but just like little devil horns appear on the hammer. You know, that's how you know something's evil. It just gets little horns, right? Okay, so that's their strategy. Zoro is literally just playing hopscotch on the heads of all of the giants. He's jumping around. He kicks one of their helmets. One of the helmets falls over their eyes. He's like, oh, son of a, where are you going? Where are you? And so Zoro's above all of them, and he activates a Santoryu secret technique. Ooh, an Ogi. He activates secret technique, the crossing of the six paths, which is a really cool move. It is one of the first moves we've seen Zoro use. And in fact, it might have been like the first Santoryu move we ever seen him use since at the beginning of the time skip. He uses it against the Kraken. When they're going down to Fishman Island, he activates this ability, uses this skill, and it slices one of the Kraken's tentacles in 6 different parts, the crossing of the 6 paths. And I'll make a pain reference from Naruto because the 6 paths of pain, there it is, fine. But yeah, he uses that technique as a downward slash, and he slices apart a bunch of the Domi Reversi giants. Now, I don't know if this takes them all out for good, because this is a really strong attack, and I'm sure Zoro is using Haki for this. Yeah, he actually is. You can actually see his swords all hockeyed up, or if that might be an error. One of them is Enma. He has the Wado in his mouth, but 2 of his swords, you see the Sandai and Enma, and they're both black blades in this panel, so he's using Haki. So it's like, here we go, crossing of the 6 paths. That slices down a bunch of giants. He doesn't get Dory and Broggy with this. He just kind of gets all the other random members of the crew, and so they get dropped, and then Dory and Broggy are up next, and he takes both of his swords, and he's like, Dory, Broggy, and he's about to attack them. At that exact moment, Dory and Broggy go in to slash Zoro. So Zoro's kind of like in the middle of the air, like falling down right in between Dory and Broggy. So Dory takes his sword pitchfork thing, Broggy takes his axe, and they're about to swing. And I think what happens, if I enhance this one scene, remember, Zoro cannot fly, all right? But he can fall with style. So I'm going to take off the shield here. I'm going to take off the shield here for a minute. So let's see here. We got Enma and we got the Sandai. All right. So basically what Zoro's doing here... Oh, man. How does Zoro do this? Oh, man. All right. Yeah, there we go. The Sandai has seen better days. It's starting to fall apart. I put some like silly putty in there to kind of keep it from falling apart. All right, but he takes his 2 swords, right? And in the middle of the air, as Dory and Broggy are about to slam into him with their weapons, he kind of like, I guess, does that. He just like hits the air. He swings his swords together like really fast, which creates like a shockwave and like boom, like blasts him backwards, like the momentum knocks him backwards, okay? I don't really know how it works. It's One Piece, you know, if you just swing a sword hard enough, it creates like an energy beam or a shockwave or some shit, you know? So that's what he does, and that knocks him back, and so Dory and Broggy's attacks connect with one another, and oh my god, it's such a sick scene. Dory's pitchfork sword slices right through Broggy's shield. The shield gets sliced in half, and the sword continues to go all the way down Broggy's shoulder, like, and then Broggy swings his axe that also goes right through Dory's shield, and then gets sliced like, these look like bad injuries. These look like injuries that would straight up kill them, all right? Now, once again, they don't regenerate from this. At least we don't see them regenerate. We see them yell in pain and be like, "Raw!" And then we just see the silhouettes. We see blood splurting from them, and it's just one little panel where they both drop down, and then we cut away from that scene. So no idea if, first of all, I don't even know which part of that was Zoro's plan, or was all of it the plan? Was Zoro's plan just, I'm gonna cut them down? Was his plan like, I'm gonna jump on top of their heads to avoid the Domi Reversi? Or was the plan to get in between Dory and Broggy? And once again, he did not change. He was in between them, but he wasn't touching the ground, so that's the key. And was his plan to just be in between them and then use his swords as like jet propulsion or something? He could have just, it would have been funnier if he like spun the swords like he does with 3,000 Worlds, and it just worked like a propeller, and it just He just like went away. That would have been really funny. But anyway, yeah, no, which part of that was the plan? Or was all of that the plan? If that was all the plan from the beginning, like, okay, I'm gonna jump on the Giants' heads, I'm going to slash them from the top, and then I'm gonna get in between Dory and Broggy, and then I'm going to blast myself away, and then they're gonna hit each other. There you go. If that was all the plan, Zoro, I'll put that in the good plan category. I think you did a good job there, okay? Jarl is shouting, like, Dory, Broggy, and Zoro, though, there's this one panel where Zoro, when he's flying away, is looking very surprised. He's like, huh? You know, he doesn't quite do the huh face, but it's like close enough. So I don't think that was part of the plan. That part seemed like he didn't expect them to go and like slash each other, okay? So the plan was probably just jump on their heads and attack them from above. That was probably the plan, right? Everything else that happened after that was just improv. But it worked. So Dory and Broggy get slashed and they go down and we don't see them for the rest of this chapter. We don't cut back to this scene. So, I wouldn't say anticlimactic because the injuries do look very severe, but, you know, I'm thinking it might be a situation where they're going to get back up after this and they're still going to have the wounds. It's just going to be like the wounds don't hurt as much, or they get back up and they're like, oh man, Broggy, you almost sliced off my arm. Oh, Dory, you almost completely cut off the upper part of my body. Crazy, let's go! And it's like they're going back into their duel and they could get like just a wash in that again, right? So when they were dueling each other on Little Garden, they had like a crazy amount of duels. It was like well over 10,000 duels or something like that. I actually don't remember the exact number. Comment down below what the number was. I know it was over 10,000, but in my head right now, I'm thinking it could be anywhere from like 30,000 to 70,000 of how many duels they had on Little Garden. But they weren't trying to kill each other, was the thing, right? Like, or maybe they were, I don't know, because there was the scene where Broggy defeated Dory after Dory had drank the alcohol and, you know, it was detonated inside of him and he went down. So, I don't know, like, Broggy was like, oh, and he started crying because he thought he had finally won, but he also didn't want to kill his friend. So, I think it was just like a bunch of draws. So, like, let's say, like, if in one of those duels, Dory would have hit Broggy really, really hard. By the way, I always wanted Dory to win. I was always a Blue Ogre Dory fan, you know? So, if Dory clearly would have won the battle and would have struck Broggy so damn hard he would have gotten knocked out on the spot, I think they would have called it a victory, right? Like, I don't think they were trying to kill each other. Now, they were really powerful warriors and they didn't hold back, but that was the point. Like, they were so equally matched for each other, unless they did go at full power, it wouldn't be, like, honorable. But even at full power going against each other, one of them wouldn't have died, maybe, like, knocked out at best. But that never happened in 100 years, right? So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they're obviously not dead, but I also don't think they're going to be out for good. I mean, this might buy them some time, so maybe Jarl and the other Giants can regroup or whatever. It kind of sucks, too. Jarl didn't even get a chance to do anything here. Jarl is like, all right, men, this is it, our final stand. And then all of a sudden, Zoro showed up and like, okay, actually, we don't have to do shit. We're good, right? And Jarl is an old man. You know, the hips aren't what they used to be, so maybe it's probably a good idea he didn't have to fight here. So, yeah, that's that scene. Now, moving on to branch number 8. This is Brook's location. Oh, we got a lot of stuff from Brook in this chapter. We're going to find out some stuff about Gunko and Brook's relationship and their history with one another, and it's not what I expected. It is not what I heard from anybody else of what they expected. Oda went a completely different direction in this, so let's check it out. So first of all, Brook managed to sneak away from the rest of the Straw Hats, did not tell them where he was going or what his plan was or anything. He's just gone. Now, in the last review, I was like, oh yeah, Brook should easily be able to just astral project himself out of his body and he can go wherever completely free as a spirit, or even like he's all bandaged up. And remember, he was more tied up than the other members were because Gunko was like, oh, you are going to be my personal slave and you're going to make music for me forever. And Brook declined. He's like, sorry, but I follow Straw Hat Luffy. He is my captain, right? And so Gunko got pissed and like wrapped him up even more. So I was like, Brook being a skeleton, he might be able to like disassemble his bones and reassemble them, but he was tied up pretty much completely like a mummy. So I can understand why he couldn't do that. I still don't get why he didn't just astral project, though, because it's not even a matter like astral projection cannot be seen by other people. It can still be seen. Like Papa Goo was creeped out by the spirit. But then again, maybe Brook wanted to be face-to-face with Gunko here, or face-to-skull, I guess, because of what's going to happen, right? So he's like slowly, like a caterpillar, he's making his way across the branch, like slowly but surely. And then finally, he reaches a spot where he's directly opposite of Gunko Emu. So Emu Gunko is like floating in the sky, you know, a little bit of ways from branch 8, kind of observing everything that's happening. And so Brook is like begins to shout over to Emu. Princess Shuri! Princess Shuri, are you there? That's you, is it not? I think? And so Emu is just kind of like, what? Emu is just kind of like, just like, what the shit? What are you doing? Right? And so, like, you just see the eye of Emu. You just zoom in on Gunko's eye. It's Emu's eye, and it's just glaring at Brook like, who is this one? Emu doesn't say anything. Emu doesn't even think anything. Like, who is this skeleton man? You know? And so they just, oh, dude, by the way, this is so powerful of a scene, and we're going to get into it a little bit more. This is the first time a Straw Hat has directly addressed Emu. This is it right here. This is the ruler of the entire world, the shadow ruler of the entire world. And Brook is like, hey, you over there! Emu's like, You know, I was like, oh, okay, all right, we're going somewhere with this, all right. So Brook is going on this whole thing, and he's like, I don't think you could be her. I don't think you could be the Princess Shuri. It's certain to be impossible. It was so long ago, and she would have been well into her, she would be well into her 70s. She should be almost 80 by now. But your image is the spitting image of her. You have heterochromia, you have 2 different eye colors, and your hair is blue, and you look almost exactly like her. You've got to be at least a member of her family. Like, you have to be of her blood in some way, right? So back up a little bit on this. We get a small flashback of Gunko and Brook in silhouette before the flashback started with God Valley and everything like that. We see a flashback of Gunko with longer hair crying as she's shouting, "Father!" And that got a lot of people thinking that maybe Brook is Gunko's father. I never really personally bought that, and it doesn't seem to be the case here, but we had that one panel. I think that was more of a red herring. Oda put that in there to make us think that, like, wait a minute, is Gunko Brook's daughter? Holy shit. No, I don't think that's the case. But then we also get a scene where Brook was holding Gunko's hand when Gunko was a child, and Brook was humming and singing a song, and Gunko was dancing in the song as well, and we know Gunko likes Brook's music as the Soul King, and so there was a flashback from a long time ago. Now, it's important to keep in mind a couple of things. Brook is currently 90 years old, okay? Brook died the first time when he was 38, all right? And then he spent 50 years adrift in the Florian Triangle. The Straw Hats found him at age 88, and then you have to factor in the 2-year time skip, okay? Now, before that, we really don't know that much about Brook's life prior from when he died and was, you know, a member of the Rumbar pirate crew. We know he was in the West, and he was the head of a battle convoy. We don't know what kingdom in the West Blue it was, and we do not know when he left to go become a pirate. But in that flashback with Gunko and Brook in the silhouette, he does mention, like, I want to go and be a pirate. Like, my dream is to eventually go out to sea and be a pirate. And eventually he would with Yorkie. We don't even know what Brook's relationship with Yorkie was. Yorkie was his captain, Brook was the first mate, and then eventually Brook becomes the captain after Yorkie gets sick. So were they friends? I like to think Brook and Yorkie might have been together in that battle convoy. They were like soldiers in the Royal Military or something, and they both decided to leave and join the Rumbar crew, make their own pirate crew. That's at least what I think, okay? I was even throwing out the idea, like, maybe Yorkie was Gunko's father, or something like that. Maybe it would be something related to Gunko, related to Brook, but not actually Brook's child, okay? And so, not that situation, but it is sort of like that. So Gunko does not age, seemingly, right? Like, we go back 56 years during the flashback where we see Rox and Emu in the Room of Flowers at Marijois, and Gunko is also there as well. She wasn't a God's Knight at this point. She was dressed sort of like a nun, as like Emu's personal like handmaiden or servant or something like that. And she looked exactly the same as she does now, like in her mid-20s. Okay, basic kind of deal, right? So we know, and Brook says right here that she would be around 80. So she'd be very nearly turning 80 by now. So Gunko, chronologically, is probably somewhere like, I don't know, 77, 78, 79, somewhere around there. So she's somewhere like 11 to maybe 12, 13 years younger than Brook, something like that, okay? And so that's how much, like, we know how much time has passed since that one scene in the flashback, okay? Still so much about this we don't know. See, he brings up that, like, okay, this Princess Shuri person looked exactly like you with the blue hair. Gunko canonically has blue hair. We've seen that in the Tankobon covers. And a connection to the Holy Land. And so Brook apparently knew Princess Shuri. And he's like, oh, you're also fond of my music. It has to be you, but it doesn't make any sense. Every detail is a perfect match. Princess Shuri. Now, Brook goes on this whole monologue trying to plead with Gunko. So at first you're thinking like, oh, Brook must have, you know, and plus that flashback we saw, it seemed like Gunko and Brook were friends. You know, it seemed like Gunko liked dancing to Brook's music and he would play music and sing for her and everything like that. And it seemed like, you know, they were old friends or something, and nothing really implied that like he hated her or anything like that. In the very next panel, Brook looks angry. He looks distraught. You see his face, as much as distraught as a skeleton. He looks pissed. Honestly, Brook's like, wait, you're Princess Shuri, right? It all lines up. It has to be. You're her. I hoped I would go the rest of my life without ever having to think of you again. You know, and it's like, what? What happened here? What was going on here? And so Brook all of a sudden is like, hey, you have to be her, right, Princess Shuri? You suck. What are you doing here? I died and spent 50 years on a boat. I never thought I'd have to see your face again. You know, it's like that kind of shit, right? And so Emu Gunko is over there and begins to kind of like, wait, what, Brook? Huh? What? And so there's a little bit of a battle going on between like Gunko's like personality. She's trying to like fight through. She's trying to take control of her body again. And so Brook says, I owed everything to the man whose life you took from me. My patricidal princess is this translation. Father-killing princess. More like less flowery than that, okay? She was a princess, Princess Shuri, who apparently murdered her father, who would have been a king. I'm assuming the king of the West Blue Kingdom that Brook was from. And it might have been that event that led Brook to leave that kingdom and become a pirate on the Rumbar crew. All right, we don't know that. I'm just, you know, filling in the context here, okay? So Brook says there was a man, my benefactor, who I owe everything to, and you killed that man. And so therefore, I hate you and I wish I would have gone the rest of my life without ever having had to think of you or see you ever again, right? Okay, so we know that Gunko is a member of the Manmeyer family. Originally, when Gunko was introduced, Oda did not include Saint Gunko in her title box. Later on in the Tankobon, that was changed. That was altered, so it does say Saint, or in the Viz, it would be Saintess, okay? And so, no, she is a saint, and she is a Manmeyer. But there's sort of like, whether or not her status as a Manmeyer member, like, was she originally a Manmeyer, or was she adopted into the family, or like, what is going on here? We still don't know about that, and we're maybe gonna learn about that here. But if Brook grew up in the West Blue, and if Princess Shuri was the princess of that kingdom in the West, and her father was the king that Brook, you know, swore his sword to, and apparently was his benefactor, then yeah, Gunko would have grown up on the West Blue, and then maybe something happened with the death of her father that led her to end up in Marijois. Also, many people have brought up the connection that Vivi has blue hair, Lily, Nefeltari D. Lily, back during the Void Century, had blue hair, and Gunko has blue hair. Emu seems to have a type. It seems like if you have blue hair, he wants you to be in his royal retinue for reasons. So, you know, it could have been a thing where Emu learned about Gunko and was like, I want her to be in Marijois and be my servant or my slave or some shit, right? And so maybe she couldn't go because her father being the king, and so maybe Emu manipulated her back then to kill her father. Because you see in that flashback, that one flashback, she's crying and she's like, Father, no! So clearly, from Brook's perspective, it might have been a thing where, like, you know, Gunko took out a knife and just stabbed the king right in the back, and Brook was there, like, he might have been like the royal guard, like, no, get back, no, Mr. King, you know, and just like, it could have been like, how dare you, Gunko, King Slayer Gunko, I say, right? And so it could have been that clearly this is a misunderstanding, right? So, yeah, this is a lot to take in right here, okay? And Brook still, at age 90, all these decades later, still is like, no, you are awful. All those decades sitting on that ship, you think Brook would have, like, sorted out a lot of the things in his life. 50 years alone on a ship, like, remember Princess Shuri? She killed the king. I guess it's time to move on, I suppose. Everything's relative when you're a skeleton floating adrift in a cold and callous ocean. No, apparently he held on to that hate. All right, now, as for Brook's relationship with the king of this, of the Kingdom of the West Blue, where he was from, it's very possible. I always think that Brook grew up in, like, a rather, like aristocratic kind of family. Like, he was a noble, maybe, like, part of, like, the minor nobility. Oda did draw Brook when he was a kid, just like all the other Straw Hats, and he does seem to be wearing, like, tattered clothing. So maybe he was in, you know, maybe he was a peasant. Maybe he lived in that kind of, like in the city streets as, like, an urchin or something, and maybe the king took mercy on him or at some point and enlisted him in the royal guard, and then he became, like, he knew how to use a sword and learned how to fence and things like that, and so Brook looked up to him as, like, oh, yes, this is the king. He is a kind man. He got me off the streets, and he taught me the ways of the sword and all that kind of shit, right? Could have been something like that, right? Yeah, absolutely. So Emu is beginning to speak to Gunko as Gunko is trying to wrestle control away, and so Emu is like, are thine memories beginning to return, Gunko? Which opens up a whole other, like, can of worms here, right? So even before Emu possessed Gunko, seemed like Gunko did not have these memories of Brook. Like, she did not immediately recognize Brook. Granted, he's a skeleton, but the name Brook, and of course, he was still Brook back in the day when she knew him, makes me think that as soon as Emu took Gunko to Marijua and became, you know, Emu's servant, her memory might have been just wiped at that point, right? Like, at that point, you know, Emu might have been like, you are my new servant. You don't need your memories anymore. And Emu might have used his powers to, like, wipe Gunko's mind and then just be like, yes, Lord Emu-sama, I will worship you. I will always be there for you. And it might have been like that. And now she's, like, beginning to remember, because the way that Emu says this is like, are thine memories beginning to return? Like, she took away... Like, Emu took away her memories a long time ago, and now it's coming back, right? And so Gunko does manage to wrestle control away from Emu for a brief moment and gets back to be herself, and immediately she looks over at Brook and like, Brook, you have to run. There's no time to explain. You have to go now. And so uses her arrow powers, and she undoes the restraints on not only Brook, but also the Straw Hats way back there. You also see the arrow that the children are following back to the boat, and that arrow starts to get, it doesn't disappear, but it gets to be a little wavy. So maybe the kids all of a sudden are like, wait, what's going on? Whoa, what's going on with this arrow? You know? And so it doesn't disappear, but it just, like, falters for a moment. And it really is just for a moment. Just a brief moment. Gunko lets the restraints go on Brook. Brook gets mostly free, but as the restraints are letting go and he's, like, knocked out of like, the bindings, all of a sudden the bindings snap shut again, and they ensnare Brook, but just on the leg. So it's not that big of a deal. Honestly, Brook could probably just deattach his femur or whatever and just hop around if he really need to, right? So he's, like, a little bit restrained, but not much. And all the other Straw Hats, Jinbei, Nami, Usopp, they're all freed, except for Robin, because she was tied up with Summers' thorn power, so that's a different power. But Jinbei, Usopp, and Nami and Brook are now almost pretty much all free, except for Brook's leg, okay? And so you have Emu beginning to take control again. So Gunko was only freed from that for like a second or two. It was not very long. Gunko, thou attempts to move of thine own will, you will obey Mu. And so once again, it's just like she begins screaming in pain as like this process of possession is taking hold of her once again, and she's beginning to scream. Brook's leg gets tied up. And so Brook is now shouting over, is like, why did you tell me to run? I came to settle this matter right here, right now, Princess Shuri. Now, who are you? And Brook is looking really angry at Gunko. Emu looks down and is like, you will shut your mouth. What art thou to Gunko? And so Emu clashes with Brook. Brook is going up against Emu. Holy shit, Emu. I don't know if you guys seen my other videos, but Emu's hanging out over here, right? Yeah. So, yeah, we have Emu. Emu right here. Yeah, Emu, you're about ready to get your ass kicked. Actually, you know what? While we're here right now, do you want to find out who Emu is? We got Emu right here. Oh, Emu, you're so dead. You're so... Oh my god. Emu is Brook's long-lost brother! No! The reveal! I'm sorry if I just spoiled all of One Piece for you just now. I'm sorry. Like, damn it, Tekking! You spoiled the end of the... Oda was gonna... That was like another 100 chapters to get to that point, and I just spoiled it just now. Oh my god. Okay, so Gunko Emu charges at Brook. She takes out like an arrow sword, you know, makes the swords out of the arrow, goes to attack. Brook has a shield. He has a shield. It was part of his design of Elbaf. I think it was the items that Gerd made. Gerd's little like outfits that she gave. Like Road gave some of the Straw Hats their outfits when they were in the Lego City, but Gerd gave like Jinbei, Frankie, and Brook their outfits. And Brooks does in fact have a shield. So he takes out that shield. It's blocking the attack with the pitchfork. Oh yeah, no, it's a pitchfork when Gunko goes into that form. It's not the rapier, it's a pitchfork. Okay, so I don't know, because Brook can't use hockey, and that's just an ordinary like shield that Gerd made, but like, let's go! Let's go! Brook versus Emu. I never would have thought. You know what I mean? Who was the first Straw Hat that was gonna fight against Emu? You think it would have been Luffy or Zoro or somebody? Nope, it's Brook. Brook versus Emu, let's go. Alright? And so Gunko says, shut thy mouth, who are you to Gunko? So Emu, noticeably, doesn't seem to have access to Gunko's memories. Because if he had access to Gunko's memories, he would already know this. Right? So maybe Emu has the ability to remove memories or bury them or seal them away and possess people. We've seen that, but not the ability to like read minds. All right, which is another crucial thing. We're learning a little bit more about Emu here, okay? What about what they can and cannot do? So that's the scene right there. Brook and Emu clash. I'm going to assume Brook is not going to be able, and also Brook has a handicap right now. He's also still tied up. So Brook has to fight the shadow ruler of the entire world with a costume, shield, and a restrained leg? I don't know, man. I don't know, even with that restraint, he might be still too powerful for Emu. You know, even holding him back with that, he might still be strong enough. So anyway, he takes out Soul Solid and the fight is on. Holy shit. Alright, so we're cutting back over to the group. It actually says Usopp's group, alright? So not Jinbei's group, not Nami's group. Usopp's group, all right? And we see Saul there, too. Saul is also there unconscious in the Briar of Thorns, all right? So they're freed, and Usopp is like, yeah, guys, see, there you go. My mind powers were finally able to work. You just imagine at a certain point, Usopp was just there like, release us, arrows. You know, he was just like trying to really focus, and they finally loosened up, and he's like, aha, I did it, right? And Jinbei gets out, and obviously nobody believes Usopp, but he's just like, oh, okay, they loosened all of a sudden. What the hell happened? Nami's over by Robin, and Nami's trying to get the thorns off of Robin, but they're just not coming off. They're, you know, it's devil fruit magic bullshit, so you're not going to be able just to rip them off, right? And so Robin is just like, Nami, forget about me right now. I'll be fine. You go save the children. Go save the children. It'll be okay, right? They also mentioned that Angie, the librarian, not the librarian, well, I guess she was a librarian also. I think she taught English at the school. They saw her running away. Now, I don't think she was running away out of fear. I think she was running away to go try to find something or help, you know, somebody else that could help. Maybe she was running from the school into the owl library like, Biblo, you need to help. Biblo finally wakes up. Who burned down my library? Oh, man, I want Biblo to do something so bad, all right? But they say Angie slip away earlier, but I doubt she'll make it in time. The West Village is way too far, so I don't know if she's trying to go save the kids or if she's still staying in the vicinity. I guess she ran off in the direction where the kids are. So then they hear Sanji. We don't see Sanji, but we just hear him screaming, Nami Swan! Off to the side, and Nami is like, oh, it's Sanji. Okay, good. So he's about to arrive on scene. We don't see him here, but he's about to do some stuff, and so maybe that Sanji could figure out some way. Sanji getting Robin out of the thorns might be feasible because he has like fire powers, so he might be able just to Ifrit Janbei, burn away the thorns. That makes more sense than him trying to get them out of the arrows, because the arrow bindings were like, they didn't get cut or burned away. They were really secure. But the thorns, though, the thorns might be able to burn away. You have to be careful not to burn Robin in the process. But Sanji, he knows how to deal with heat. He's a cook. He'll be fine, right? So now we cut over to where the kids are at, okay, near the West Village, as the children are following the arrow back down the docks toward the boat. And Summers is there, and he's on his thorn snake eel kind of thing, his little thorn dragon that he's riding on top of, and he's just kind of next to the children, and just kind of like, is like, move along, you brats, you're almost at the port, and then we can finish this damn mission, right? And so we have Colin, who's just kind of giving Summers the back talk, you know, he's just like, yeah, well, you know, you're gonna take us away, and the giants are gonna be really powerful, and you're gonna be sorry when they all attack you. They're gonna wipe you all out. And Summers is laughing, and he's like, oh, you stupid kid. We all know the giants are strong. Why do you think we're after them? You know, you're Gabon's kid, right? Yeah, you got that attitude. And also remember, back in the day, Scopper Gabon, you know, sliced up Summers a lot. So I bet Summers probably has some animosity against Gabon, and he's like, oh, you're Gabon's kid, huh? Okay. It would be sort of like that scene where we don't know if Hibari is Akainu's daughter, but the scene at Hachinosu where Aokiji shows up and just freezes Hibari. Out of all of the sword members, he freezes Hibari. And it's like, yeah, Aokiji fought against Akainu and he lost a leg, so he's gonna be I wouldn't even say that's petty at that point, but he's just like, yeah, Akainu took my leg, so I'm gonna freeze Hibari, who possibly is his daughter, solid into a statue, right? And so maybe there's something like that where Summers is just taking some pleasure, some like sick, demented, like, oh yeah, we're gonna, you know, take Yabon's kid away to be a hostage. That'll serve him right for all those times he cut me down, you know, that kind of shit, right? So he's just laughing at them, and Colin and the other kids are like, let us go. And he's like, oh, okay, maybe. Let me think about that for a minute. No! Okay, so, you know, he's like, oh, check it out. I can see the harbor. We're almost there at the boat. Kiss your homeland goodbye, kids. You're never coming back to Elbath again. Right? And so he's like, wait a minute. No, we're never going to see my mom and dad again. No. And so they look at the distance. Well, actually, first, Summers gets on the Den Den Mushi and starts to communicate with Emu, and is like, oh, yes, hello, great one? I love how that's like, how do you address, like basically the devil when you're calling? It's like, your boss is the devil, and it's like, all right, hold on a second, just boop, 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 boop. Oh, boy. Hello? Yes? Great one? Is this you? Oh, okay. Anyway, yeah, Killingham and I are about done, so I really want to go home, but yeah, is there anything else, any other of your bidding that I need to do first? Great one, Emu, anything? And so Emu does not respond to this, because Emu's a little bit tied up right now. But he's calling them over, and then you see a big crowd of the rescue team. You see Ripley, you see Oimo, and you see the mothers of the other children all rushing to go save their kids, right? Oimo is the grandpa of Olaf. Where is Frankie? I forgot to mention this last time. I was going to mention where frickin' Frankie was. I don't know where he is. Last time we saw him, he was with Ripley's group, and we do not see him here. We have not seen Frankie in a hot minute. Where is he? What's he doing? Does he have a plan? He's my favorite Straw Hat. I'd like to know. All right, but yeah, maybe he is part of this group, but we don't see him here. He's not on, like, Ripley's shoulder or Oimo's shoulder or anything like that, right? And so they're about to, like, show up and save, like, oh, hey, kids, we're almost there. And then we have Yilva, and she's one of the kids, and she looks up, and she's like, wait a minute, look out, guys! And then the evil nightmare version of the sun god Nika appears and is like, and brings down the dagger. So, like, whenever we see sun god Nika, he's, like, depicted with a shield or sometimes a spear and, like, a short sword kind of dagger sort of thing. So this is, like, the facsimile of that. The nightmare version of the sun god basically just has, like, a dagger that it brings down and is like, ah! It's, like, stabbing the ground and everything, right? And so the kids are all worried about their parents, and they're like, no, it's the god of destruction! Referring to Nika as the god of destruction in this moment, as is referred to as in the first age of the Harley, where it is a god of destruction, clearly. Changes throughout the other ones, the other verses, but these kids are afraid of Nika being a god and an agent of death and destruction and, like, destroying the world in flames and stuff, as the first age of the Harley mentions, right? So all the kids are like, Mom, run away! And then they're all like, you're really underestimating us, huh, kids? we're not gonna take this from just the sun god. Sun god, we're parents trying to save our kids. And then boom, we are the great generation of warriors from Elbaf. We're the last generation of warriors. And we see the moms and Oimo and Ripley all jump up at the same time and just slash the crap out of the sun god. All right, and so Nika gets blasted away and is like, "Rah!" But he's not out yet. And he looks down and he gets the glare in his eyes and he's like, "Ah!" And he takes the dagger. And he just starts like repeatedly stabbing the crap out of the ground, trying to attack all of the parents. And then at that exact moment, we have Gerd and Goldberg arrive, and they queue up to do a combo attack. Very similar to the combo attack they used against Road, when Road was chasing the Straw Hats after they left the castle, and they made that trap, and Road got crushed by the tree. And he's like, "Wait, no, where are you going?" And then Goldberg and Gerd hit him at the same time. So they're about to do that, the two generals attack. But then at that exact moment, Road joins in, and Road uses like a really long katana, which he uses for cosplay, right? Road is like, "This is the great sword, deadly giant, Itachi," or whatever, this is my sword, Itachi, Naruto, Inuyasha, Zangetsu, right? And so he takes out his katana and he's like, "I know, let me join in on this combo attack too, Goldberg. I need to save my little brother." And they're like, "Okay." And they use 3 generals, Gokoku sovereignty. So, this is the latest in a long line of attacks that are named after, the nation of Elbaf. So the first one of these we get is at Little Garden, when Dory and Bragi team up to defeat the giant goldfish, the Island Eater. And that technique is Hakako, okay? Or Koku. Koku, in this sense, is the kanji for country or nation, okay? So Hakoku is like conquering nation or conqueror's sovereignty. Warrior nation is one translation. But yeah, it's also the same kanji that shows up in Haki, because Haki just means dominating spirit, and it also shows up in conqueror's Haki. So the kanji for conquering actually shows up twice in, Haoshoku Haki. All right, you can even hear it, Haoshoku Haki, which is interesting. So you have that technique that Dory and Bragi used to punch a hole in the goldfish. Then during Whole Cake Island, Big Mom used a technique just by herself and Napoleon called Ikoku, which was mighty nation, okay? And that used a kanji for might or intimidation, okay? And then here, I couldn't find the actual Japanese kanji for this. I was trying to search for it, the original Japanese version of this chapter. I couldn't find it, but it's probably the kanji go, not go as in the number 5, because there's only 3 of them. But the kanji for go in this case means strong, hard, indestructible. It actually ties into Vajra a little bit. Anything indestructible, like adamantine, that kind of stuff, is any kind of fictional metal that's ridiculously strong or indestructible shows up with the kanji for go in some way. Goriki can mean brute strength, Kongo can mean diamond, okay? And so in this case, Gokoku could mean a strong nation or unyielding nation. I think that's a better translation for it, unyielding nation, because that also reflects the speech that Jarl gave in the last chapter. We are unyielding. We are not going to bend the knee to you. We are not going to be your slaves. We are not going to be your warriors. Elbaf stands strong kind of thing, right? So unyielding nation, strong nation, adamantian nation, I guess, whatever. That's kind of what they're doing right now. That's the name of the attack. And just like with most One Piece techniques, you swing a bunch of swords and melee weapons really hard, because Gerd has an axe, Goldberg has a club, and Road has a katana, and it just creates a giant shockwave energy blast that just boom, just blows a hole in the sun god's chest, and that just one shot kills the thing. But it's still falling down, and it's about to fall down on Summers, who's right next to the port with the boat. And so Summers is like, "Hey, back off, don't fall on me, you stupid, nightmare creature." So he takes out his big baseball club made out of thorns, and he's like, "Hey, don't land on me." Boom, and he just knocks it away from him, not a big deal. And the nightmare monster version of Nika tumbles through the air, and it crashes right down and lands on the boat, and it sinks immediately beneath the clouds. And Summers is just like, "Oh shit." and you see like a booger running down his nose, and he's like, oh god, oh no, that's not good. I'm gonna get a pay doc from that. That's not good at all. And that's the end of the chapter. I don't think there's a break next week. No break next week. End of the chapter. The boat is destroyed. Now the children have no way to get to Marijois. Well, there's other boats, and I'm sure there's other methods, but it's gonna delay the process a bit, okay? That's hilarious, though. The idea that, like, Summers honestly could have just let the sun god crush him, the nightmare monster, because Summers is immortal. He would have just regenerated. All right, he would just like, oh no. And then he would have like, eventually the nightmare monster would have moved and fallen off of him, and he would get out and he'd be like, oh man, that thing was heavy. He would have just regenerated. He's like, hey, don't fall on me. Bam. All right, now that took care of... Oh shit. Oh, that's not good. All right. And now he's... Oh, by the way, it would be funny if he was still on the phone call to Emu. Or, was it a phone call or was it telepathy? Because the box that was used seemed to be like it was communicating... He was communicating through the Den Mushi. But I'm not sure, because they have the ability of communication through telepathy as well. But that would have still been funny if the line was left open. Another concern, that arrow that the kids are following right now, that Gunko created, it leads directly to the ship, but there's no ship now. So that arrow is just going to lead them right off of the pier into the cloud. And it is like sea cloud, so you can like float on it, but it's like there's like no buoyancy. Well, there is buoyancy. In the One Piece world, it's weird. When Usopp tried to go swimming in the cloud sea, it's like, wow, there's no resistance. I'll just keep falling and falling and falling and falling until Usopp fell out of the other side and they had to go pull him up, right? So, but boats can still swim on it. But I still have buoyancy. But I think it's because the boats have like oars, and the oars are like attached with cloud as well, so it's kind of like that. But at any rate, like, yeah, if the kids walk directly off the pier into the cloud, I think they're just gonna fall right through and down to the primordial realm. So then again, we have Loki and Luffy that are down there, so any moment now Loki's gonna turn into his legendary zone form, which is an eagle obviously, and he's gonna fly up, and all the kids are gonna tumble off the side of the pier, and it's like, no, and then this is Loki's theme song. I'm working on it in my head. Let's get some war drums in there. Boom, 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 boom. And then Luffy's drums of liberation. He goes gear 50. He's dancing on the back of Loki. It's gonna be really sick, all right? And so they show up and save all the kids. Yeah, that's very clearly what is going to happen. 100%, right? Okay. So yeah, though. That's a fun way to end the chapter, with Summers' face just being like, oh no, and so like I said, there could be other ways to get, like, you could just get another boat. It can't be that hard, but it's gonna delay things for a moment, and I don't think the parents were taken out by the sun god, so I think they're still around. I mean, Oimo is a seasoned warrior. I think he'll be fine. Ripley will be okay. Ripley's a biology teacher, for God's sake. She can make it through this, right? But then we have the whole thing with Brook and Gunko, and their fight is going to start. So, like I said, I think Emu's stronger than Brook, but I want to see that fight. I want to see them clash a little bit, and maybe Brook is trying to reach through to Gunko to try to get her to remember who she is, and like Gunko is like, oh wait, what? Brook, no, you must leave. No, you must die. No, you must leave. Like, back and forth, there could be that. And then the whole thing with Dory and Broggy being defeated at the village. Like, are they just going to get back up and start fighting each other again? Emu is distracted with other shit right now, so Emu might not be able to order them around. I'm sure they could not disobey a direct order from Emu. Like, if Emu was like, Dory, Broggy, quit fighting each other and go and kill Jarl already. But Emu is distracted at the moment, so they can't be in two places at once. That is another thing they can't do. We know what they can and cannot do, at least in that respect, right? And so they cannot, like, split their consciousness in that way. So this is actually lining up where it's making it, it's kind of pushing it a little bit more towards the good guys side of things. And the Straw Hats are freed now. And Sanji's about to rendezvous with Nami's group, right? And Usopp has magical mind powers, apparently. And Angie's off doing something. And Zoro's still, he's basically at full power. He hasn't even gotten hit yet, right? So I think everything's gonna work out. I think everything's gonna be okay. Yeah. All right. Well, anyway, and then the next chapter, Zoro gets Domi reversing or some shit. Like, oh no! Right? Okay. But we'll see. We'll see where this goes. This was a good chapter. This was a good one. We moved to a lot of different places, and probably the most interesting thing is the Gunko-Brook relationship is what I'm most focused on right now. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. This will be Tekking signing out. Always remember to bring the shield!